Alright, Mr. Reed. Little gatekeeper here. Got a old school Sweet 16 here. You can tell it's an old school one because it says, well, I can tell it's old school just by some of the parts that are in here, but it actually says 1.6 kW basic amp. I have no idea why they put that on there, basic amp. I don't know if they're kind of referring to the not as sophisticated switching circuitry. Or I guess you can say the switching configuration. But yeah, pretty much sent this to get some new transistors put in here, man. And so I mean, it's not supposed to be a repair, but we'll see. I tell you what, it definitely could use a good power wire upgrade, but you have not asked for that. And just seeing here, I just took the top off. The pill screws are just jingling around all in here. And I see here is a piece of one of the fuse connectors. That does happen once these boxes get old. It almost looks like the fuse holder for the fans became a little brittle. There's a ferrite bead loose in here too, I noticed. Right here. I don't know what this came off of. I'm gonna have to look around and see. This was just hanging in here. You know what? I think that's where it came from. Yeah, I think they were on this. I don't know what this is for. I'm gonna have to look and see what's going on. That's one way you can. I hadn't done that in a while. Just dropped my phone. It's been a while since I've done that. I used to do that a good bit when I first started out. You see me dropping my phone all the time. But take a look at these old school box capacitors right here. That's how you can tell this is an older Texas Star, no doubt about it. And you also, if you look down here and see the type of diodes they're using, they went over to the more button style diodes at a later date, which were much cheaper and paid, you know, the same purpose, played the same purpose. And see, the relay is sitting in here crooked. I don't quite see why that might be. I can tell right here where somebody has replaced these resistors, which, I mean, this is right. You got two 100s in series creating a 200. And you got another two 100s in series creating a 200, and then both of them in parallel equal 100. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't know about this relay sitting in here crooked like that. I don't know why it's... I'm just going to get in here and take a look at everything, man. I'm going to do my thing like I always do. These are 16 volt caps. This thing, 16 volt caps. I don't know why they put these 16 volt caps in here back in the day. Because back in the days, no one was running regulated power supplies hardly. I mean, that was a slim and none. As it's kind of got to these days, it's slim and none. People are running mostly regulated. If I hook this box up to my unregulated supply, it's a good chance these are not going to take it. I may have to take them out and replace them just so I can hook this box up and get it show it working. And put some updated caps, which I think I got a couple of more updated caps. 2200 microfarad caps that Texas Star uses, so it'll be alright. But anyway, man, This has a different resistor for some reason. I don't know. I'm just kind of looking around while I'm on camera. That's all. I'll quit taking up all the time and get to it. Let's see here. It's a little bent back here too. I'm gonna try to straighten that out for you. And there's one small fan on the top. It'll kind of be beneficial to put one more of them fans on the top too, but I'm gonna leave all that up to you. You didn't ask for no modifications, no power wire upgrades, anything like that. You just wanted it repilled and working. So that's what we're gonna do for you, bud. Alright, we'll be back. Hopefully this thing dropping a big hammer. Alrighty, Mr. Gatekeeper here. This is Mr. Reed's old school Texas Star Sweet 16. I don't got a CB handle for him wrote down here, so I'm just going to call him Mr. Reed. And I know he's been waiting a good bit for this, which I do highly apologize. You'll probably be hearing that in 20, 30 videos before this one and 20, 30 videos after. I took on way too much work. Way too much work about 2.5 years ago. And I've pretty much just been playing catch up for about 2 years. It's terrible, but I'm almost there. I'm in the 9th inning, if this was a baseball game, and in the 4th quarter, if this was a basketball game. So I'm just about there. But anyway, this box was not in the best condition whatsoever. I had to do quite a bit of small strategic things to it. One of the things I noticed right off the bat. Well, first off, he was sending this to repill it with HGs. He pretty much knew it needed new transistors. It didn't have no transistors in it when it was shipped to me. But it needed a little bit more done than just putting transistors in here. I'm sure you probably can tell just by looking at it, Mr. Reed. Had to do a little bit more to it than just doing transistors. So anyway, since Mr. Reed had to wait a good bit longer than I anticipated, I've done something special for him. Instead of getting HGs in here, look what he got. Non-dot Toshibas. Now, in some way, form, or fashion, if something takes longer than anticipated, etc., I try to do something to make it up to the customer. Even if it's just knocking a little bit off the total bill, bare minimum, In this situation, I was able to hook him up with some Toshibas instead of the HGs for no extra cost. No extra cost whatsoever. So you're very fortunate, Mr. Reed. Very fortunate. Alright, I'm gonna try to just shoot through this because my battery is getting low over here, I see. One of the first things that I did notice was, we'll start from the top here. First thing I did notice is the top had one fan on it, which is this one, and the other was just taped up. Well, as you can see, this fan only pulls 0.12 amps, so you can already see this fan is old, and it pushes like no air at all. It's big, bulky, and doesn't push no air. That's an old fan. So just to help you out, man, no extra charge, I went ahead and put you two matching fans on there. These are 24-volt fans, okay? So you don't have to worry about no regulations. So I went ahead and put you two fans and wired them up internally, okay? This was sent with the box. If you put fans on the bottom of the heat sink, which I do recommend if you're able, you can use this to wire them up. and just plug it into the fan hole, which is this hole right here. This hole right here, okay? So I got you, instead of having a hole right there, you got two fans, two brand new fans. Alrighty. Like I said, this was an old Texas Star. The fuse holder right here was so brittle it was falling apart. And literally, this is what came of it. After just trying to remove it, it literally fell apart. So I got you a new fuse holder right here. Okay. On the older versions, I just ran a tiny little bitty wire from here down to where pretty much the hot bus is. And that's supposed to power the biasing and the relays, and you know, I don't really like that. I mean, that wire's got to be like a freaking 30 gauge or 32 gauge wire. I always like to change that. This is the way they do it currently. They put another 3 amp fuse with, I think this is 10 gauge wire or 12 gauge wire over to that hot bus on that board. So that's a brand new fuse holder. So I went ahead and done that for you. I had to replace this combiner right here that was blown to H and back. The resistor wasn't. Somebody replaced the resistor, but the actual ferrite and the wire was all burnt. And next issue was this fuse holder right here. The nut to put it on was cracked. So it wasn't even being held in there, which I see that happening too a lot on these older boxes. For example, this one back here is cracked, but this is stationary. This is really good and stationary. It's being held real strong together by the wire since it's so short. So this is fine. I didn't replace that one. This one right here was cracked as well. You had 3 cracked nuts. Now this one right here, I had to basically unsolder all this, which is not fun. It really is not fun having to unsolder all this stuff on these boxes, man. I'd rather just do a power wire upgrade if I was taking them off, but you didn't request a power wire upgrade, so I had to put another nut on this one, okay, and then I had to totally replace this one because the dang thing, the top would not connect. That's why you had a fuse taped to the top lid. So this right here is a new fuse holder. I did not have any fuse holders here that match these because these are so old. They used a different fuse holder back then. So this fuse holder does look different than these, but it's brand new and it works. Alright. This relay right here was all crooked. I fixed that. Straightened up the relay. Let's see, the biasing was off on this side right here, and it was because there was a not a dead short, but a cold solder joint on the 1.8 ohm resistor, and it wasn't even soldered. So this was off. It may have something to do with it failing before. There's no way of knowing really. This thing has been repaired quite a few times. I went ahead and cleaned this thing up real well, which you'll see me do a lot on these older boxes or Texas Star periods. I like cleaning them up. I like to be able to clean them up too to see what's going on in between the traces and everything, because Texas Star did use a lot of flux to make everything flow together good. Another thing I went ahead and done was, this is the style capacitors they used for the feedbacks. Okay, while removing them, one of the legs fell off one of them, which is pretty common with these type of little box capacitors. Focus. Trying to hurry up here. So what I went ahead and did was just, instead of having one capacitor different than all the other ones, I went ahead and just replaced all of the feedbacks, which is what you see right here. So all these feedbacks are new. Next thing was your 330s, which are right here, 330s, from collector to ground. Those were, of course, all out of whack, not matching each other. Some off by 20 picofarad or so. Luckily, because of my good buddy Mike over at Texas Star, helping me out a lot in the past, I'm able to still use OEM parts with Texas Stars. So, you know, this is a good amount of OEM Texas Stars. 330s already matched in bags that I matched together. So I got you brand new 330s on all the collector to ground junctions. Alright, after all that, let me keep up with the time here. After all of that, getting the Toshibas in, fixing I think maybe 2 or 3 cold joints here and there I saw. Then I attempted to check the bias on all 4 boards. That is when I quickly noticed that we had an issue, because as soon as I turned the power button on, there was bias going to all boards without even keying. So as soon as I turned the power button on, this relay was engaging. Why? Because this relay, excuse me, hold on. Because this relay was engaging. Yes, any other technicians out there will agree, it is not 10 but 100 times quicker to completely annihilate, how do you say that word? I don't use that word a lot, but basically demolish the factory relay when one of these go bad. Instead of having to remove this board is the hardest board to remove out of this amp, because you have to undo all of this pretty much. It is crazy, man, to remove this board just to replace this relay. It's easier to do this because the relay's broke already. So I went ahead and had to add another relay. And since it has been a good little while since I've had to do this to one of these Texas Star Sweet 16s, it's been a good minute actually. I know there's been a few times where I've Class C'd these things for people and I've bypassed it, but it's been a while since I've actually had to replace it with another relay. So just to make sure I was freshened up on everything, I went ahead and drew me up a quick diagram, just so I could know 100% what's going on and make sure that I wire it back in 100%, because Mr. Gatekeeper does not have good short-term memory whatsoever. So this right here is how I get through things. And yes, I have stacks of these. Ever since I've started doing this, which I do plan, so just to make sure my 6-pin ports are wired up correctly. Regulated bias circuit for a 2-pin I've been meaning to try. I ain't gonna get all deep into it, but you know, this thing's filled with diagrams, and this is my newer book. I've got another notebook holder in there like that that's filled to the brim. One day soon I plan on actually putting these in plastic and putting them in a notebook so I can go through them a lot easier, which I need to do soon. I've got a lot of valuable information on paper like that that makes things a lot quicker if you come back to something you've done before. So anyway, just so I can make sure, it's a lot easier for me to put it down on paper so I can see it. So I put the new relay in for you. Okay, so there you go. There's a new relay. The bias is working correctly now. Everything's switching just fine. The only other thing I did do, let me look through my stack of parts here, is the trimmer. This is a fine example why I don't like leaving trimmers in boxes, period, unless I have to. Absolutely have to. Which is in very few situations. Because the input tune of this box was way off. I had at least 1.5 watts of input reflect, and just hitting it with the bench radio on PEP wattage, which I'll do a lot just to do a primary test of the amp. It was like doing like 450 peak and had like 1.5 watts worth of reflect. So basically I just simply retuned the trimmer to where it was supposed to be, and had literally virtually no input reflect at all after I did that, which is beautiful. That's what I love to see, especially on 8 pills like this. Then I removed the trimmer and mic'd it in, and guess what? It's about 30 more picofarad difference than what you'll actually see on the schematics. But this is a older Texas Star, and we have Toshibas in here, and things are possibly a little different. So they're not all going to be identical. They're going to be very close because the way everything is done, but not identical. So it tuned out to 150 picofarad, or puff as a lot say. And I went ahead and put a DM19 right there instead of a DM15. No, a DM19 instead of a DM15. Excuse me, I'm about backwards there. So the input is rock solidly tuned now. And I think that about covers it, brother. The only other thing I did do is I reinforced the connectors right here. They had black electrical tape on there. I resoldered them and put some good heat shrink on there. So let's go ahead and zoom through this. I don't have much time left for them to run out of space. So give me 1 second here. Alright, I've got the bench radio hooked up going into my 1-pill driver. Okay, this is going to be giving the box maybe about 100 watts peak. Okay, so we're just going. Another thing is, these are 16 volt caps. I hate that they done them that way. I'm just going to turn the supply on since I'm on the unregulated supply, and I'm just going to kind of do this quick and get out. Okay, just to be safe. All right, 1,000 watt slug. We're looking at the RMS. Let's turn on the amp. Hold ya. Hold ya. That's about 500 bird. Hold off the scale. 1,000 watts, of course. Let me press pause here and change the slug, and let's see what it's doing on peak before we put a bigger radio on it. Alright, we got the bigger radio done. It's dropping to 15.4 volts, by the way. Alright, 2,500 watt slug, so we're looking at the top scale where you see the 10, that's 1,000 watts. So we're already at 1,500 watts. So, alright, let me go ahead and hook up the Stickman tune, and we'll be back. See what this thing's doing on the bird end of things. Almost forgot before I switch radios. Here's your input reflect, just in case I hadn't shown you already. 5 watt slug in reverse. Gold. Yeah. It's hard to get any better than that, honestly. Alright, let me hook up the Stickman. Alright, this is the Stickman Cover 29. I'm driving 8 watts into the 1-pill driver. We should be getting about 800 or so out. 1,000 watt slug. We're back on the 1,000 watt slug. A little bit over 800, about 900 bird. Right there, about 900 bird. Alright, man, this booger is fixed, brother.